And Cody was coming, the way he described him to me, I was expecting him to look like Kelly Cott. But message, you never know who it's going to come from, what they look like, especially somebody like me. Dave said about 15, 20 minutes, so I got to kind of condense it. My name is Charles Randolph Hayslip II. So already I got something to live up to. And I guess kind of the theme of my testimony today is, I thought. See, that was the problem. I thought. Born and raised up in North Kentucky. I was born in Covington, Kentucky, and then my family, my dad was a basketball coach. My mom at first was a stay-at-home mom, and then she was going back to school to get her teaching degree. I'm born in '64, so I'm a melting pot of a baby boomer and I guess the Gen X, because kids back then were supposed to be seen, not heard, and then I ended up being a latchkey kid. Taking care of myself, learned to cook at a young age, and all that, take care of myself, me and my sister. Church was something Mom put on us pretty well. She made sure we'd go every Sunday. Dad was pretty silent about it. I found out later in life that I guess he was raised Methodist. My mother was Baptist, and got the chance to go to her church in Maysville, Kentucky. It's got a beautiful, big, giant pipe organ. I used to love to go to church. And I got into it when I was 8 years old. We'd moved to Elkton. My dad got the coaching job at Todd County High School. It was at Elkton Baptist Church. I was probably sitting right there in the second row. And the preacher was preaching about that we need to be childlike to come to God, to accept Jesus and be childlike. And just that day, he gave the invitation. I thought, well, I'm a child, I'm childlike, and I want to be close to God, so I went up there and asked to be baptized. So around between 7 and 8 years old, that's the first time I got baptized. But the preacher, when we were up there, he didn't ask me the three things that Dave asked me up there. He just didn't ask me why did I know Jesus died for my sins, and everything that we go through when we get baptized is our symbol there. And I just wanted to be a child of God and be close to God, so I got baptized. But one thing that did, it basically, that and Mom taking us to church and all, that convicted me that I knew God was looking out for me, He was going to protect me and all that, and this great God. But I truly hadn't given my heart to Him. And really at 7, 8 years old, there's probably very few that can. So then I'm just living life by the seat of my pants, and pretty protected childhood. They wasn't rich by any means at first, but I'm going on all these adventures where we lived. A little river run, or some river or creek run through Todd County back there. I'd get up before my parents would wake up and go off through nature and everything. I'm walking home. There's a big pasture back behind the houses on Allensville Road in Todd County in Elkton. I'm walking along, coming back home, and there's this pear tree growing out, and there was a shed right under it. I climbed this fence, got up on that shed, and I was eating these pears, and this little man come running out. I didn't know it at the time. He was from Spain, and he goes, "Hey, you there? You're stealing my pears." So right there, this little story started a life of stealing and alcoholism. So this guy takes me on down to my mom and dad, which they knew them. His name was Louis. He was from Spain. It was hard to understand him. And his wife Louise, she was a seamstress, and they knew my mom and dad. But he brought me down there and said, "Your son, he steals, so he gonna work for this." So out of everything bags comes something good. So he says, well, my dad said, "Well, what do you want him to do?" He says, "Monday morning he's to be ready. I'm gonna pick him up at 6 o'clock and he's gonna go work for me." So I'm like, well, this is 1972. So here's my folks gonna leave me off with a strange guy. So I get in this old Suburban. It doesn't have any windows in it. I can't even barely see over the dash. And so we're driving on out of town. He pulls into this field and it goes up. And then when it crests in this field, I can see out. It's probably 10 acres of gladiolus flowers, all the colors you could imagine. So I was cutting flowers with him, and then we'd go around, he'd sell them to the florists and all that. And then after I'd worked for him for a day, now this is my punishment, he'd bring me back to his house, he'd pour me a shot of blackberry brandy and give me a quarter. And that was my pay for the day. And even at 7 years old, it burned, but that blackberry brandy was good. And that was my introduction to alcohol. And in that introduction to alcohol comes a whole, and if anybody is a recovering alcoholic or knows one or heard any testimony about one, you have all these tendencies in your life. You just rationalize everything. So like later on in my alcoholic life, I stole a boat because it just sat there. And I had the money to buy it, but it just sat there and sat there and sat there, and it's just rotting away. Well, I rationalize, well, I'll put it to good use, and I'll give that boat a good life. And I took that boat out and up here thinking, you could go to jail for that. I never got caught, so I've been enabled all my life. But, so then, go through, life's going great. Dad gets a better coaching job at Hopkinsville High School. He coached there probably from 1986, and he got fired my junior year in 1982. Found out later some kind of conspiracy, but as this going on, we're still attending church. I think we went to, is it Hillcrest? It's over, not the one, I don't know the one that's the end of Skyline Drive, but over by Millbrook and Don Drive area was one over there we went to. And I'm just going to church. I used to sit with a kid and we'd get called down in church a lot, but I still had that conviction. Then fast forward to probably about 5th grade or so. Back then when you're a teacher and all, you only get paid during the school year. So my dad in the summers would paint, and one day he's leaving the house to go paint. He said, "I'll see you later, bud." I said, "Okay. What are you gonna do today?" "I don't know, probably go down the river on one of my little adventures." But anyway, my mom's like, "Come here, Chuck." There was a living room we had that nobody used. It was just supposed to be perfect for, I guess, for company or whatever. But I wasn't really ever allowed to go in there. She goes, "Sit down in here." And I thought I was in trouble again, but she didn't say Charles Randolph. So I knew I wasn't in trouble. And she goes, "See your dad going there?" I said, "Yeah, he's going to work." She said, "Well," and not to paint a bad picture of my mom, she's a really good lady. And I guess adults tend doing this. I've been divorced too. And she says, "Well, he ain't never coming back. We decided we was gonna get a divorce." And that was it. That just crushed me, because I just thought we lived a perfect life. I never saw him fight. My dad never really ever raised his voice at his mom. He said that for me. He was a strict disciplinarian, even though I loved him dearly. And I didn't know what to do. I ran out the backyard, and I had this big red dog in a big old dog house, and I climbed in that dog house with that dog, and I just cried. And I just thought, I didn't know anything about divorce. None of my friends, their parents ever divorced or anything like that. And I guess from then on, I guess I really started rebelling, whether I really knew it or not. And so I'm getting older. About that time that this happened, I was at, I guess I was going to Addicts Middle School, and went to the library and checked out a book called D-Day. Started reading about the military. 101st Airborne. The next one I checked out was, I think it was the Battle of Iwo Jima or Okinawa. So I knew right then at 12 years old I was going to be a United States Marine. And obviously by the haircut I fulfilled that. But with that comes even more alcoholism. See, the Marine Corps, for those of you who don't know, on November 10, 1775, the Marine Corps was founded in a bar in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania called Tongue Tavern. So all these drunks get around. I guess they could fight real well, because it sure did last. And joining the Marine Corps, drinking almost became a requirement, if not expected of you. And you will hold your liquor. You don't, you know. And I have an amazing liver. It seemed like I could oxidize alcohol easily. But with the Marine Corps coming, so I did join. 6 days after I graduated high school, I left for boot camp. Dad drove me to Louisville. First time I ever seen the man cry was when he had to leave me at the hotel 2 o'clock in the morning before I went to the med station. I didn't understand why he was crying. When I left Mom here at Hoptown, I wanted to say goodbye to her. She cried. I said, Mom, it's no big deal. This is going to be an adventure. This is going to be great. And so I made my mama cry. And throughout the Marine Corps, I'm not going to go in a lot about the Marine Corps because it's a mixed audience. There was an instance or two where I was ordered, asked, told. Ended up, I go to the oil rig because that's dangerous. I was in the derricks working really high up there. This gal says, well, you can die while you're out there, you ought to marry me. So I did. So that was really fulfilling. Found out later she was on doing meth behind my back. And so that's another reason to drink, I thought. So that's not gonna work out. Her family turns on me. I thought it was gonna be like a lynching. And calling my dad and I had a really close relationship. We always would call whenever we would write. And I was like, I'm just gonna leave. I said, I wonder how long it'll take me to ride home on horseback. I thought about doing that. And ended up, I donated 5 horses, sold everything, and I flew home. And the wife I have today, she was my high school sweetheart that we never got to go out on a date or anything. And we reconnected. And probably a year, I got back to this area in 2012. And Colette and I got married October 7th, 2013. And I was still drinking. So I'm coming up on 14 years of being moved back and 13 years of marriage. And probably, so that would put it at about 3.5, 4 years into the marriage, she just came to me and she said, you're killing yourself with this alcohol. I'll just tell y'all, it's not a bragging way. I probably drank, a long time ago, I was on bourbon and beer. In 2006 was a big bad fight I had. I hospitalized a man. And on that night, I swore off hard liquor. So I thought, yeah, that's the cure. And I didn't really realize that, thank goodness I was friends with the chief of police. I think I entertained him. That was in Wyoming. But if the man died, I guess I could have went to jail for murder. I ended up not doing any time for battery or assault. I never saw the man again. But that's another reason, I guess, why I ran back from Wyoming. And I meet up with Colette and I thought, well, we got married, she'll settle me down. But I'm drinking probably anywhere from 30 to 45 beers a day. But I'm functioning. I can still build things. I could build houses. I could build garages. I could pour concrete. I probably weighed about 140 pounds then. And then I don't know what happened to life happens, I guess. I started gaining weight and I got up to about 201 pounds. I'm drinking like crazy. And she came to me and she said, you're killing yourself. And I'm not gonna watch you die. She said, you're just gonna have to do something about it. And I've always prayed in certain situations, you know, I didn't treat God like a genie, you know, grant me this, grant me that. But, you know, I just cried out, hey, I'm lost and I don't know what to do. And thank goodness we had the insurance at the time, and I checked myself into rehab. Had gone to AA in the past, got off alcohol before, for about 3 years, and got mad at a guy in AA because every time he'd talk about his cat. His cat died, and I was cold-hearted. He was sitting over there crying in the meeting about his cat died. He wanted to go out and get drunk. So I threw $10 on the table. I said, we'll just go. And I walked out of there and I never went back. I stayed dry back then. Oh, probably a year. Went down to visit my cousin. She was like my sister in Florida, sitting on the beach, and this lady's wheeled by with a cart, and I started drinking again. So, and that just got worse. So now I go to rehab. I'm in Mansfield, Kentucky. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned about my body. I guess it was faith-based. They prayed, and that stuck with me. And even then, when I got out of rehab, I come home, she waited for me. I prayed at every meal, and I would pray at night. But it wasn't fulfilling. Met Dave probably within this time and started going to that barber shop. Every now and then he'd ask me if I had a church or if I went to church. I think I would probably tell him no, but I mean, I believe there's God, you know. God was doing for me that I couldn't do for myself. I realized that, and to me, that's Philippians 1:6. He's begun a good work in me, and he will perform it until he comes back. Amen. But I didn't still know that at the time. And I don't know, all of a sudden, believe it or not, I had a fear. And that conviction just hit strong. I remember getting my hair cut one day. I don't know if anybody else was in there or not. And I said, would you be willing to start a Bible study? Because I don't want to go to church. I don't want those people. See, I don't want to meet all those people. I don't trust those people. I can't do that. But man, I sure would like to learn more, you know. And sure enough, it wasn't long after that. I don't know how many we started with, 3 or 4? Now we're, 2.5, 3 years into this. Got a pretty good group. I'm glad to meet that man there, Brother Jesse. I'm glad you're there, and Lee's there. And this group's in Katy, and Noah comes. I wish you'd come sometime, Barry. You'd like it. But I was learning, at the time I was unemployed, and I had time to really start reading. I'd come in and talk with Dave all the time about things. He was encouraging, but it just hadn't hit yet. It just hadn't hit yet. So I started, my suggestion to anybody new is to read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. It talks about Jesus, his life, and all that stuff. I got through those. I learned a lot about the story. There's so many symbolisms within the Bible, you know. Like Noah's Ark. You got one door on Noah's Ark. It's one way in. There's only one way, and that's through Jesus Christ. I know that now. But it wasn't until I finished the Gospels, I'm still kind of lost. I'm still going to a group. I'm bouncing stuff off. One time I'll come in nice and happy. Other time I'll come in, I'm mad. Or I'm lost. You know, just life's not fulfilling. At the time, back then, I had more money then than I even do now. I was like, life's okay, but it just wasn't fulfilling. So finally, I get to the book of Romans. And even then, it's still not hitting. And finally, I get to the 8th chapter and the 1st verse. Therefore, there is no condemnation for those who are in Jesus Christ. And when I hit that's what it took. And I'm sitting there, I'm coming today. Why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me? I'm in turmoil. That's just what turned the key. And since then, man, here I am. I'm still, it's a daily grind to die to this flesh and to totally, because we got to live in this world. You know, I guess my worst thing is probably my vocabulary at times, whether you get mad or sad or indifferent. I got to watch that. That's another reason why I didn't want to talk too much about the Marine Corps, because Dave knows when I get excited and get going on that, all that vernacular and that vocabulary just flies out, and it will burn some ears, and this isn't the proper place for that, of course. But finally, Romans 8 it freed me, and that brought me back to that I thought I'd get through this life. I thought I had everything in control. See, it's not about me. He's the one. He's the one that saved me. And then I gave my life. And the ones that were here on June 22nd of 2025, I got rebaptized up here for the real time. And when I come up out of that water, I said today, so, and I'm fulfilled and I'm healed. And nobody can take that back away from me. And now I'm having this relationship. I love to pray. When we get on that prayer, I was late yesterday on that prayer chain. I didn't get it. I was working in my yard. But when I do, I sent my praying hands, and I got my spot. He knows about it in my house. He knows about it in my house. Went and said a prayer for that baby and Caleb. And I'm so happy because she's been through enough. We've heard that testimony from Sister Jill there, and can't imagine, we all think we got it hard. That girl's had a hard life as far as I'm concerned. Glad to know she's in Christ and that God's looking out for her. But, and I guess on a closing note, this is my goal. I want to talk about when Peter denied Christ, that, you know, God or Jesus prophesied that he would deny him the 3 times. So, you know, when Jesus gets arrested and Peter's following along with another disciple, and the lady says, "Oh, you're one of his disciples." "Oh, no, I'm not." You know, and then once again he's warming himself by the fire. It's like, "Well, you're one of them, aren't you? You're a follower." And he says, "No, I'm not." And then in Matthew, I like this description better. 26 verse 73. When the last one accosts him about being a follower of Jesus Christ, he says, "It's because your speech gives you away, your accent." That's right. Now I want my accent nowadays for people to know I talk like that, I walk like that, Amen. And I'm in God. Amen. That's my goal. I want people to be able to know